Writer's Workshop mini lesson, narrowing the focus. Today we're going to talk about a revising strategy called narrowing the focus. Narrowing the focus will help you as a writer to focus on one topic or event and write about it in detail. I noticed many of you were writing stories with lots of ideas yesterday during Writer's Workshop. Some of you had really good stories, but there were too many ideas and it jumped around from one idea to the next. When writing personal narratives, good writers choose a small memory to write about in detail instead of telling a series of events. We are going to call this a seed story. Think of the big juicy events in your life as a watermelon and the small details as seeds. Sometimes you need to pick one seed from the watermelon and write about that idea using lots of detail. I will show you an example. Maybe you want to write about a time that you went to the beach, so the watermelon topic could be a trip to the beach. But there were a ton of things you did that day at the beach, so we should narrow the focus. What are some things you can do at the beach? Okay, so one of your seeds could be building a sandcastle or catching my first fish. So instead of writing, one day I went to the beach, then I got ice cream, I built a sandcastle with my sister, then I walked on the sand, we went home at night, it was fun. You could write, one day over the summer, I went to the beach with my family. I built the best sandcastle anyone's ever seen. I used my favorite bucket to get water from the ocean and filled it up with my sand. My sister helped me build a tunnel leading into the sandcastle and filled it with water. It looked like a real castle. I even used shells to decorate it and made a flag out of seaweed and a stick. Before we left the beach, I told Mom to take a picture of me standing next to my sandcastle. I'm going to give you an example of a time when I needed to narrow the focus of my writing. I was going to write a story about my family in my writer's notebook, so I started thinking, who's in my family? Well, I have a mom, dad, and a sister, but I also have a grandmother, a grandfather, aunts, uncles, cousins, and even a dog. This sounds like way too much to write about in one story, so I need to narrow my focus. Maybe I should pick one family member to write about. Okay, I think I'm going to write about my grandmother. I know a lot of things about my grandmother. She loves to travel and has been all over the world. I also know that she likes classical music. Her favorite movie is Gone with the Wind, and she's Italian and makes the best spaghetti and meatballs. My grandmother also lives in the woods, and I used to sleep over her house a lot when I was a little girl. I know a lot of things about my grandmother, but I think I have too many ideas again, or too many seeds in my watermelon. So I need to narrow my focus again. I remember that I said I used to sleep over her house when I was a little girl, so I'm going to write about that. Now, there were a lot of nights that I slept in my grandmother's house, but I can't write about all of them, so I need to narrow my focus again. I remember one night that I slept over, my grandmother let me wear her pajamas to bed. I think I will write about the blue pajamas. Now that I have chosen my seed from my watermelon and narrowed my focus, I'm ready to share my story. Can you listen to my story? As I read, remember what the focus of my story was. I remember looking forward to sleepovers at my grandmother's house when I was a little girl. Not only did she make me apple pancakes in the morning, but she let me eat them with ice cream. One night I forgot to pack pajamas, and it was time to go to bed, so my grandmother told me to borrow a pair of her pajamas. I spotted a pair of blue velour pajama pants and a matching long-sleeve shirt. The pants were so long I almost tripped on them, and the shirt looked more like a dress, but I was certain I wanted to wear those pajamas. Are you sure you don't want to try on something else? She asked me. No, I said. These are just right. As I lay in bed that night, I smelled the sweet smell of my grandmother's perfume on her pajamas and wrapped myself in the cozy fabric. I loved everything about those pajamas, and from that day on, I never packed my own pajamas for a sleepover at my grandmother's house again. So boys and girls, did I stick to the focus of my story? Now, I want you to turn to a partner and tell them what you're working on in Writer's Workshop. Try to decide if they need to narrow the focus of their story. As I was listening to you share, a lot of you decided you need to narrow the focus of your story. This is a way that writers can revise their stories. So let's add that to our list of ways that writers can revise. Now you are each going to get an organizer and fill it out. Once you are done, you will glue it onto a page in your writer's notebook. The diagram shows a big juicy watermelon. Remember that the watermelon is a big juicy thing that happened in your life, and the seeds are one tiny piece of it. Brainstorm 2 watermelon topics and list 3 seeds for each watermelon. As you continue to write your personal narratives today during Writer's Workshop, remember to narrow your focus.